This video contains major spoilers for the books. If you have not read the entire series, certain elements will be revealed to you for the first time here instead of their proper context. Continue at your own discretion.
Hi, I'm Max.
I'm the Geeky Hippie, and we have a special guest tonight, Siansonea. Many of you might know her from Twitter, and well, more know her from YouTube probably and Facebook.
Yeah,
Would
not
you like
really.
to introduce yourself?
Hi.
Well, tell us what.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about myself because I don't really do a whole lot. I'm just.
You moderate a whole bunch of YouTube channels.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, I'm a
Livestreams.
moderator on a couple of YouTube channels, and I am famous for making snarky comments on Facebook. And
You eat the trolls.
I do. It's good times. And other than that, I'm just a fan of the books and the show.
How long have you been reading the books?
Since the early 90s. So a long time.
A long time. Most of your life, like me.
Well, not most of my life.
Well, in my case, it's most of my life. So, how did everybody feel about the episode this week? Max?
2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up
Mixed.
from Chance?
Mixed, a little mixed.
There was a lot I liked, but there was an awful lot that I really did not like. And Glenn Buey is in full effect in a lot of ways tonight. I am the grump tonight. And Siansonea is going to disagree with me. We disagree all the time. That's why I invited her on.
Yes,
we can
I'm a
disagree.
professional disagreeer.
I rank this lowest of the 6.
And I rank it highest. So
There
we
you
will
go.
disagree strongly.
We will. Max, where would you put it?
Well, I have 4 as my number 1 place. Then I have
Makes sense.
6, 5, and 3 all tied. Then 2 and 1.
Okay. I'm kind of sort of there, close. I'm 4, 5, 3, 2, 1, 6.
Oh,
Well, did
should
you
we
wanna
start
get-
with the with the Watt take?
Yeah.
Glenn, you're up.
Oh, I'm up for the one take.
Yep.
Outstanding moment of the episode. I'd have to say Egwene and Nynaeve's audience with Swan Sanche. That was just stunning. Absolutely stunning. It, as much as I have problems with this episode overall, that scene might be one of my favorite scenes in the series so far. By far. I loved every second of it, from the moment Moiraine's walking Egwene around the Hall of the Sitters to the end of the scene with Swan. Brilliantly written, brilliantly acted, and the sets were gorgeous. And it just, I can't praise that scene enough. What did you guys think of that scene?
Like, it wasn't the standout scene for me,
Okay.
but I liked it. I liked it.
Yeah.
I really liked Nynaeve trying to browbeat Suan
That was funny.
and it just not going anywhere. That was one of my favorite scenes of that episode.
Well, and it was an example of everyone trying to get Sawan's goat and failing to do so.
Right.
I mean, Logain tried to, Nynaeve tried to,
Everybody.
Landrin tried to, and nobody succeeded.
Nope.
So what was your Watt take?
Mine?
Yep.
Yeah.
My Watt take standout moment of the episode was, well, there's actually 2, and they were kind of bookends. But it was Siwan Sanche, daughter of the river, clever as a pike, strong as the tides. That line spoken by Siwan's father and by Moiraine, like, was the emotional through line for the entire episode and for the
I get
series for
that.
me so far.
I get that. I was really touched by that opening scene with her, the prologue with her dad. That was, I liked that a lot.
That would actually have been my Watt take, is that opening, cold opening. There were, to me, like, few kind of really big standout moments, but that first one was like probably the more emotional side of ones that I appreciated in the show.
It's a good scene. And
I
it-
really liked it too.
I will say though that the adult scene with Suan and Moraine had one of the best lines of "on your knees." Everybody on Twitter loved it.
There was a number of good lines in this episode. On your knees was one of the best.
See, I don't live for the lines.
I get, yeah. I'm not, but there were a few that I just really liked. I really liked when Lance said that sound like a suggestion. Just the way he said it, his delivery was just, that's funny. I found it funny.
Well,
But-
yeah, and it more importantly illustrated that they are, for all intents and purposes, equals. That this
Yeah.
is not a one-sided relationship. It's like they
Like-
both have a stake. They are both partners in this endeavor. And Maureen doesn't think of Lan as an errand boy, and he doesn't think of her as, you know, her ladyship, for lack of a better term.
Well, like when Maxim and when Nynaeve was at the campfire with the warders and she said, you serve them, and Maxim says, we don't. This is a perfect example. Lan does not serve Moiraine.
No,
Their
they both serve a
partnership.
higher purpose.
They're a partnership. And that's what it is. That's what a warder and his Aes Sedai or her Aes Sedai should be, is a partnership.
Well,
Miss-
so far we haven't seen any female warders.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. We have seen female tower guard though, and that wasn't in the book to my recollection.
Yeah, I don't care. Like,
So
I'm happy to see female tower guards.
I am too. I just, it, you know, so if they've got that, then I wouldn't be surprised if they do end up showing female tower guard before the one we eventually get. And this is a spoiler show. So-
Okay,
Well, you
good.
know, as far as warders go, if they allowed female warders in this point, the Red Ajah probably would have allowed it.
Well,
in the
yeah,
ranks.
and they would have female warders, I think.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point. That's a good point. So they might actually stick to Brigida being the first female warder.
Well, it would make her more special too.
Very
Yeah.
possible. All right. So the Taveran episode is Siansonea's turn to go first.
So for me, the most valuable player is obviously Sophie Okonedo, because she absolutely killed it as Siwan Sanche. And there were so many layers she had to play, sometimes simultaneously, that, you know, and my honorable mention is Peter DeJersey, who played Burden Sanche, like, because of that, those bookended moments, like, obviously this was the episode about Moiraine and her most cherished relationship, and our introduction to Siwan Sanche, who is a major character in the books and who hopefully will be a major character in the show. And this, I could not have asked for a better introduction to her.
It is a good introduction.
Yeah.
No arguments from me. I mean, I have a different person. You'll understand why when I bring it up, but that's a very good choice. If I hadn't gone with this person that I picked, Swan probably would have been my choice. So I'd say she's my second, but yeah, I mean, I've been looking forward to Sophie Okonedo. You know,
Oh, yeah.
Liz 10. I loved her as Liz 10 on Doctor Who. And so seeing her in Wheel of Time, I've been excited, especially looking at her CV of what she's done outside of, you know, Doctor Who before this.
Oh, I've seen her in a ton of things, and she's always great. And I was very excited when I heard she was cast, and I knew she would do amazing, and she absolutely did.
Yeah, she did.
So my Taveran of the episode, obviously since Sophia's been picked, I'll have to go with the actor who played her father as just an excellent actor. He did an excellent job this episode. Even though we only see him for like 3 minutes, he did great.
He really sold that scene.
Yeah.
For sure. And I hope we see him again somehow, because he's
We're lucky.
really great. But ultimately, it's like they picked the right person for that role.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
played that. He was a good
So-
father.
What was your pick, Glenn?
I went with the person who is in every other single scene of the episode except for the prologue, and that's Moiraine. Rosamund Pike. I can't think of a single episode. I just watched it in the last 2 hours here, and looking back, other than that prologue, cold open, whatever you want to call it, I can't think of a single scene she's not in. She was literally, she's the glue that held this episode together. It was her, and the episode was about her. She was the entire focus of the episode, even when Swan Sanchez there stealing the limelight from Moiraine. It's still really about Moiraine for this
Oh,
episode.
and I agree. But for me, like, she's the MVP of the season more than this episode or any episode, because I mean, she's doing the heavy lifting for the entire show right now.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
There's somebody else that I'd nominate for that if they didn't make a decision that puzzles me and worries me, and that's Barney. I don't know why he left. I'm puzzled and worried, but
I am not puzzled or worried. I don't know the circumstances of his departure, but it is what it is, and
yeah,
we have simply to accept it.
yeah, I'm just worried for his health. If that's the kind of thing that makes it sound like it might be a health issue, but
I refuse to speculate.
yeah,
Like,
I try
in
not
the
to.
absence of any information about what's going on with him, I choose to assume that if they wanted us to know, they would, and that it's
Fair enough.
inappropriate for us to speculate about his health, about his situation in any way, because we simply don't know. And in
Fair
the
enough.
absence of information, I think we should just not try to put an answer there just because it's blank.
Uh,
I just hope he's doing well.
I do too.
That's-
he
that's-
has
that's
done a
my thing.
great
Yeah.
job.
You know,
He did a great job.
I just like I said, I just hope all's well.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what I mean when I say I'm worried. I hope all's well.
Oh, I do too, for sure.
yeah.
And I hope to see him again in something else.
I really have enjoyed him as Matt Coffin this season. I think to me the standout performances, and going into the season, I thought for sure Marcus Rutherford was going to be one of the standout performances for me. But at this point in the season, it's Barney, Rosamund, and Daniel Henney, and Zoe, the four of them. Rand and Perrin are just kind of like there. They're not as much.
Well,
They're not blowing me away as much as the other four are. I mean, they're all and Egwene. They're all nailing their characters. They're all nailing their characters right. But the four I named are they're going that bit further for me.
But they're
What are
in
your
the spotlight
thoughts?
right now.
Yeah.
They're in the spotlight right now. And that's perfectly appropriate. Like, Rand and Egwene and Perrin are supposed to be sort of the quieter, less, pronounced story at the moment. Like, they're supposed to just kind of be in the background because the focus is more on the other characters right now. And that's something that will wax and wane throughout the series. And I'm sure that when the time comes, they will all shine brightly. But for right now, it's like they're not like really leaping off the page right now because they're not supposed to be. And they're doing their job by, like, especially Perrin. Like, everything that is going on with Perrin right now is so internal that it would be weird if he was like a very high key presence in the scenes he's in. Like, he is just like a bombed out, emotional wreck right now. And so it's appropriate that he's just kind of sleepwalking through life. It would be strange if he wasn't.
Yeah.
What I'd say on that.
Go ahead.
What I was going to say on that is, like, for actor playing Perrin, I do feel like even though he hasn't said a lot of words, he's said a lot on his face this whole season.
Yeah.
He hasn't had to say anything. Even the first, say, second episode where they're doing the trail walking towards Shadar Logoth, he didn't really say much, but you could see in his eyes he was thinking about what he did.
Oh, yeah.
And that's his whole thing. And like your favorite scene with Perrin on, what was it, episode 4? With the Tinkers talking to what's her
Hila?
face?
Isla.
Yeah.
Isla,
Hila.
Hila.
And she did a phenomenal job, but when you're watching him, it's like you could just see the gears turning in his head as he's figuring out that puzzle.
And that's acting, reacting.
Well,
You know.
Siansonea was asking. I was telling Siansonea earlier. I did go meta on one of my choices for tar Valon at least once, I think, so far this season. And I didn't pick an actor or a character. I picked the casting agency, the casting director. That was for the first episode, I think, because they nailed it. You know, when
Oh,
they
yeah,
cast this
for
show,
sure.
people were wondering and puzzled. I mean, people have been doubting for 2 years now, and I have yet to see an actor not perform their character perfectly.
There's been a line reading here or there where I'm like, I probably would have taken another pass at that. But nothing on the scope of, well, this person was miscast. You know,
Yeah.
like, the way people were like losing their minds before the show dropped. It's like, well, everyone involved in the show is 100% vindicated at this point, like for making the
guys-
decisions that they made.
These
As
folks
far as
are
I'm
the
concerned.
characters. They are
Yeah.
all the characters,
Yeah, I
So,
including Loyal, even though I don't like that hair.
I
so
don't mind Loyal's hair. I really don't. It's like, I just think it looks a little bit dry and needs some moisture. But other than that, like, I think he looks fine.
So our next topic is the Dragon's Fang. I didn't really see any like major villainous stuff this episode. Part of me would say, the obvious Leandrin and her interaction with Moraine. But it was kind of like, I mean, if you could give a Dragon's Fang for like biggest burn, it would be what Moraine said to Leandrin about the guy she met. But
See, I love Leandrin because I'm
Yeah.
Red Aja. So like, like I'm totally a fan of Leandrin. Like,
Kate
and I didn't care
Fleetwood
about
is
Leandrin in the
amazing.
books.
Kate Fleetwood has been amazing.
Yeah. Like, I didn't care about Leandrin at all in the books. Like, I was like, whatever, you're boring. But like, Kate Fleetwood has made me completely embrace this character, and I can't wait to see what she does.
That was some petty bullshit she pulled in the hall, though.
Oh yeah, but wasn't that great?
Yeah.
I love
was
it.
I wouldn't give it a Dragon's Fang, but if we had like a
You're not
yeah.
bad enough. Just
Yeah.
simply not bad enough.
if we had a topic for like the biggest burn, it'd be Moraine's comment back to
Walk
her.
away. Yeah, like that was amazing.
So does Glenn have a Dragon's Fang?
Not anybody on the show. In the show, like on screen. No, not anybody on screen. No.
Siansonea?
My Dragon's Fang goes to Matt Cawthon for abandoning his friends at the Waygate, because the Matt Cawthon that we meet later in the books would never do that. But this is Matt Cawthon before he goes through his transformations.
Yeah.
But for now, it's like, you're being a bad friend, Matt Cawthon.
I chalk it up to him still being affected by the dagger.
Oh, me too.
That's
Absolutely.
my headcanon that I just came up with just now, and I'm going to stick to it.
Well, I think it might be actual canon in the show. Like, I think,
Yeah.
well, and Moraine even said, like, the connection is still there, and the dagger was feeding on his darkness as much as he was feeding on it. So, I'm sure that when we pick up with Matt again, whenever that is, this will be addressed.
With Donald Finn, the guy with the perfect name to play Matt Cawthon.
Oh,
Last name
yeah.
to play Matt Cawthon.
Yeah.
There was a Twitter comment about the real reason Matt left him behind. He's gonna go get those horses and sell them.
Yeah. One of my concerns with the writing that they did, though, does revolve around that dagger healing scene, because if Matt has to still be connected to that dagger enough that he needs another healing, that he has to go back to the White Tower. Otherwise, they're going to have to contrive some other reason for him to go back to the White Tower, because Rafe is going to piss off a large percentage of the Wheel of Time fans if Matt doesn't fight Gawain and Galad. And the only real place for him to encounter them that would make any sense is on the Warder training grounds.
I disagree.
I don't see why they would be anywhere else in the next couple seasons.
They could be in Camelin and Matt fights them in Camelin for some other reason. I mean,
Why
We
would
will get-
Gawain wouldn't be in Camelin? He'd have to be in Tar Valon.
No, but see, you're looking at it from the standpoint of, well, but in the books, this is what happened. Therefore, this is what must happen. But in the show, there could be a totally different situation in Camelin. We could be meeting Elaine, Gawain, and Galad all in Camelin. There could be warder training happening in Camelin for some reason. Like, a lot of the circumstances could be identical. And Matt could just enter and exit the situation differently. Like, they will hit that beat somehow, I have no doubt. But how they get there, like, I don't really think that's that big of a deal. Like, we will get that moment, just like we got Weep for Manetheren in a different format, in a different place. Like, it doesn't matter where it happens. It doesn't have to be in Tar Valon. It doesn't have to be the warder training grounds. It can still happen. And it might be more entertaining the way that it happens in the show. We don't know yet.
We'll
Like,
see.
I thought Weep for Manetheren was extremely effective the way they did it.
I really enjoyed it. It's just my worry. I'm worried for how they're going to handle Matt's story with that, and I don't know.
We could cover that in the Rigging the Pattern, or
Another turning.
speaking of which, the next topic is another turning, and Glenn goes this time.
It's a big one here, and this is my big issue with the episode. I'm going to fold a couple of different things into one. It's the changes to the metaphysics. Everything from women not being able to sense other women who can channel, to the way the waygates look and work, and the way the ways look. I mean, weather inside the ways. I mean, I can ignore lightning inside the waves. That's for dramatic, atmospheric effect.
And I don't care about any of that.
The waygates, I will not get over Rafe changing the waygates to a new design just because he went to Bali with the writer's room, and they all posed for a picture in front of a gate, and a Candy Bentar style gate at a temple there, and loved the design of it, and then goes back and tells the production team, I want that for a waygate.
Instead that doesn't bother me at all. Like, to me, that is like the specific design criteria that they use. Like, none of that matters to me. It's like, is the emotional core of these characters what I want? To me, that's the important thing, not the metaphysics, not the way the waygates open, anything like that. Like, I just don't care about any of that.
The waygate, though, would give a sense of, there's a sense of beauty that is, if they had put the waygate on screen, that it would have inspired in the audience, I think.
Well, but is the core of the Wheel of Time the waygates? No,
No,
the core of the Wheel of Time is the people.
But it is something that's just, it's one of the more aesthetically beautiful things that he described in the books.
So
I mean, it never really resonated with me.
One thing I will say is, like, on the metaphysics side of channeling, I want to say it was Rafe or someone on Amazon clarified, couldn't even, what's her name? Sarah, that the minute change they made on the metaphysics was women can't just sense that women have the power, but they can sense when they, obviously when they're channeling.
So they're men who can channel.
They can sense when they're channeling how powerful they're going to be.
Yeah, that's how men work.
But they can't sense without them channeling how powerful they're going to be.
They have to channel for them to be able to sense.
Yeah,
which explains how she didn't know supposedly Nynaeve could channel. Right. She might have suspected based on her. Yeah.
She made it exactly how men are, sensing men who can channel.
But why does that matter?
Because it's not part of the way the one power is designed, and
well, that's not part of the way the one power is designed in the book.
Part of the whole story, because it's part of why Nynaeve has to be so and Nynaeve and Elaine have to be so damn careful running around Falme, because there's Suldam and Damane running around everywhere.
In the books, it might happen differently in the show. They might drop some of that altogether.
They're just going to make it so they can saunter around all they want, and I think that takes away from the drama. They want
Well, I
draft.
mean, some people are really upset about water cloaks and ageless spaces. It's like some of these things are going to just be eliminated or changed,
And-
you know,
and the-
and it's just the reality.
And the problem with the waygates goes beyond the design. It also goes to how it's used. Who are the waygates created for then? Obviously
Does
not
it
for the
matter?
Ogier. Yes, it's obviously not for the Ogier because Ogier can't open it. How are
Well,
the dark?
that is not obvious. You are
how is
making an assumption based on your perception of
Ogier
how
can't
that
channel.
scene played out.
Ogier
But
can't
you're
channel.
assuming that the only way to open the gate is the one way that we saw it opened. And that is an assumption you should not be making.
If there's another way to do it, that would probably be a lot easier than channeling. If there's a way
Not
the Ogier can do it.
necessarily.
If there's a way a Fade can do it, you know.
We
how-
might see that.
You know,
Yeah.
from
See
a
it.
watch and find out perspective, we don't know if there is a key like a leaf that maybe got removed from that. We don't know.
Yeah.
There's a ton of things. Like even the origin story mentions that it was built by the Min could do it, but obviously Sidar was used to open it, which means that any version of the One Power could open it. Maybe. We don't know all the mechanics behind it, but there's
And
also
that's
that.
just- they'll figure it out.
But there's also like what I've been saying for a long time now is I think they might be merging the waygates with the portal stones.
I think they should, because they're
And
redundant.
it might literally just be like you enter the waygate and then there's portal stones inside it kind of thing. Because as we know in the books, when they enter the waygate, they have those big stones that say like where you're going. And Loyal has to like interpret those stones.
Guiding stones.
Those they could be the portal stones inside it. Because as we know
Well-
in the books, we only really see the waygates, a handful of times, and the portal stones like twice.
Yeah,
Three
and
times.
they're really just a plot device to get people from point A to point B.
Yeah.
It's just a fast travel point. Like, and the specifics of the fast travel, like to me, can be whatever. And it's just like when Siwan and Moiraine used their little closet picture
Yep.
thing, Terengriel or whatever, to essentially travel to a different location or into a pocket dimension or whatever. We still don't know. Like
Yeah.
that's something new we haven't seen before.
And
And
that
I
I
like
can
it.
I can write that off. That doesn't bother me. It just they're making. I don't have an issue with changes. Okay, I have an issue with unnecessary changes or changes because Rafe wants something to look different just because he can.
Well,
Especially when they're going to have ripple effects going out. We've already gotten 6 episodes, more things that are changing, causing ripple effects going forward than the first 2 seasons of Game of Thrones caused.
well,
And people
It
bitch
is-
about the effects that had on Game of Thrones. Just
but
imagine
none of
the
the
ripple effects
things
get worse.
that
and
were wrong with
worse.
Game of Thrones were as a result of those quote unquote ripple effects.
A
Like
lot
if
of
you
them
think
are.
that, well, if you think that the ways being slightly different is going to ruin the show, like the ways isn't the reason that the books were great, and like the specifics of things like the ways and the way they look and just like the set designs and things, it's like, that's just a matter of taste. Like I never really resonated with the ways at all in the books. Like I was just like, all right, fast travel, who cares? So like, yeah, it's important to you because for some reason it really meant something to you in the books. But like, there's going to be moments, I'm sure, where there's some visual design choice that like, I'm like, I kind of like the way I imagined it better. But I don't think it's going to like really ruin anything
I'm not
because
saying it's ruining. It just, and not so much. I'm not even saying that the design, the way the Waygate looks, is going to ruin anything. It's the functionality has
the
ripple
functionality
effect.
is still
It, has,
open.
it still does.
We
have
don't know
ripple effect.
everything we need to know about the ways. We haven't even gotten into
But
them
see,
yet, really.
It's causing them to have to write something new, make up something new, which is making themselves more work, creating
what?
something new. Instead of they could have just continued telling the story
Nope.
that was there without all the extra changes.
The
That
story that was
just because
there was not perfect.
no, it wasn't. I'm not
No,
saying.
it was not perfect. There was a lot of things about that first book that I'm like, throw it in the trash. I don't like it. you
And-
know, and you
And
know,
I'm not even looking at just this first book. I'm looking at later on though,
oh, yeah.
because
So, to interject here is like, we're going to have these changes and we don't necessarily know what direction they're going to go. For all we know, season 2 is going to skip Great Hunt and go straight to Tyr.
yeah, we don't know.
We don't know. They could have the Siansonea land right in Tyr while Matt and Rand are bursting through the stone, taking the sword, fighting Baalsman in the sky and nuking Siachen ships. We don't know. There's a lot of things that could happen by how they change it. Matt could have his fight with the two brothers in Camelin or in Tar Valon.
Or
we don't know.
Tyr. Yeah, I mean, it's like there's going to be so many things that are going to be different, that being so married to the source material is going to just make you miserable. It's like, just accept that whatever happens, as long as it's cool and as long as it feels like the people that you met in these books, embrace it. That's what I'm doing.
the more they change now, the more they're gonna have to make up stuff in the future.
Not
Yeah,
necessarily.
but yeah, like look at the Tower of Politics. By throwing this in here right now, they're setting up the fall of the tower within the next season or two.
Oh, I'm sure it'll happen within 2 seasons.
So
Like,
if they didn't set it
Sawan
up,
isn't
yeah.
deposed by the end of next season, I'll be pissed.
if they didn't
It'll
set
be
it
the
up
end of
now,
season 3, I think.
yeah, if they didn't set it up now, it's gonna come out of left field, 5 seasons down the road, which is like a lot of, seasons to cover. Same with the Warder Bond. If they didn't cover that an episode or 2 ago, then when Moraine's thing happens in 3 or 4 seasons, they're getting a lot of this stuff out of the way now,
Oh,
so they
yeah.
don't have to deal with it later.
And it was important to really show that Warder Bond and what happens, because it's going to come up again and again and again,
Yeah.
In the story. So that's why they made it such a big focus on the
So-
last episode.
Another
think
one thing
those
I'd like
could
to
have
comment about the ways is Shadar Logoth. There's a lot of complaints about the black shadow through town when it should be a white mist. Well, so I've been saying forever now that what I think they're going to do is they put the black shadows in Shadar Logoth because you can actually see the shadows creep across town. And they're going to change the Mushin Shin from a black shadow to a white mist. Because you're not going to see a black shadow in a very dark black landscape.
Yeah.
So they switch the mist to a shadow to mist. You're actually going to see Mosh and Shin as this white mist with voices disembodied, talking about gnashing and breaking bones, instead of just nothingness and nothing.
Yeah. And who cares, really? It's like Mashin Shin and Mashadar are like, to me, like such D-tier concerns for the story as a whole. Like, what do they ever really do? Like, they're a plot device, just like the Ways. It's like
Mashadar essentially cleansed the taint.
Yeah, it's a plot device. It's a MacGuffin. Like,
Yeah.
it just exists to
That's
do something.
what it did. That's what
It's
it did.
not a character. Yeah, it's like,
So, for me, Mashadar and Hush and Shin, what they basically did, aside from plot device, was they were the horror elements RJ put in the books.
yeah, it's just
And-
a lingering
Yeah.
sense of foreboding and a malevolent presence. Like,
Yeah.
And we have the drama side of the books, we have the magic elements of the books, we also have some of the random horror elements in the books that people enjoyed.
and they work
Bandersnatch?
in the books, and they're still in the books. But if they don't work in a visual medium, change it.
We're gonna have
But
to,
like a lot of fans do want to see some of those horror elements, so it's not just like fantasy, it's horror, it's a little bit of sci-fi,
Oh yeah,
etc.
and I thought we've had plenty of horror elements so far.
The next one up is you, trying to say.
Oh, another turning. So for me, the most significant far-reaching change is Matt not going to the Eye of the World, which I'm excited to see how it plays out. Like, I don't remember in the books what Matt actually did at the Eye of the World. So to me, it's like, if we had to lose somebody, him and Perrin,
right.
and I'm interested to find out, I mean, we might not find out this season, but what Matt ended up doing after kind of deserting his friends at the Waygate. So to me, it's like,
He changed faces.
it's well, and it's kind of one of those things where I guess real life wrote the plot, but I'm interested to see what far-reaching, because like Glenn, the big difference between you and I is that you see the far-reaching ripple effects as a bad thing, and I see them as an opportunity, you know. So like I'm like, this could be cool, this could be interesting, you know. And it happened anyway, so might as well get on board and find out how this plays out.
You know, to add to your thing, is like it gives us more stuff to talk about.
See, at first I was bothered by it, and then I learned that it's probably because this is where Barney left the show. You know,
Well,
in real life. In real life, this is the point in filming where Barney apparently left. And I'm like, okay, so yeah, like you said, real life wrote the scene. So I can forgive it, you know. It's beyond their control. It's beyond Rafe and the writers' room's control, this situation. If Barney wasn't going to be there for block 4 for filming episodes 7 and 8, they kind of got to write him out there as they head to Faldara / the Eye.
Yeah, and we don't know if Barney Harris did any filming. Like, we don't know the ins and outs of all of that.
Right.
For whatever reason, they made this decision, and I think it's potentially very cool just because it is different. Like, I have no interest in seeing the exact story I already read play out exactly the way it played out in the books I already read. Like, we have that story. We can always go back to it if we want to. This can be something new, and that's a good thing.
We don't know, for instance, if they cut any scenes with Matt during this episode. You know, I heard some rumors that they might have had some more scenes in this episode with him, but because of what happened, they were either cut or just not shot.
This episode does feel like it, even though it's the longest episode of the season so far, it does feel like it's had, other than the first episode, the most cut from it.
Because like we didn't see a Thane, as far as I know, in this episode.
Nor did we hear a whistle, so.
Hashtag Thane spotting.
Yeah, there was a possible sighting on the street with Maureen looking down, but I didn't see him.
I wasn't even looking for him.
Yeah, but you know, for all I know, there was a Thane, but they cut him because maybe, you know, because of everything that happened, you know, maybe they originally planned for Matt to do what he did, but now we kind of lost motivation for some reason. Like maybe he talked to Thane. Like, we know Lan hid the dagger in that cloth, but we don't know what they did with it. We assume they brought it to a tower. I don't think they actually told us what they did with it.
That's a big question I've got, is what's going on with the dagger?
I'm sure that it's probably in the 13th depository, and that probably one of the Black Aja will give it to Thane.
See, as far as my, you know, another turning, pretty much you guys covered them all. It's you know, you got the Matt thing going on. The ways are a thing. We have some stuff with Leandrin, and we still don't quite know if they're merging her with Elida or not. I know that's one of the big theories, that they're merging her characters together.
I hope not.
We don't know.
I don't know if I will mind, because on the one hand, I really liked Elida in the books, but on the other hand, I didn't care about Leandrin in the books at all. So if this character that I already like gets more to do and I don't get Elida, at least I have a character I like.
Well, if they do merge them, then I really hope they don't have a Leandrin being a Black Aja.
Well, I mean, how they do it is more important than whether they do it, to me.
As far as I'm concerned, Elida can't be Black Aja. That's part of the point behind Elida. She's the villain who's not Black Aja, who's not a dark friend. Just like a number of the White Cloaks are the villains who aren't dark friends.
Yeah, but Elida is not like a linchpin character in the books to me. Like, I always enjoyed Elida because I love the villains, you know.
Yeah.
But like Masana, like if we're gonna get rid of a Forsaken, buy Masana. You know, it's like some characters just aren't that important. And you know, like I love Elida, like, but if I have to, like, she's a darling I'm willing to kill if necessary.
Okay.
I do agree with Glenn that if they do merge the characters, I kind of hope they don't make her Black Aja. But as readers, I'm going to be looking for every single line that could be a lie from her.
Well,
I'm already hounding every line. Like, is that a lie? Is that a lie? That's a lie, right? No.
I'm hoping we get to see if Leandrin does turn to the Black Asha in this version.
Mhm.
I'm hoping we get to see it and not just, oh, she was evil all along. You know, like I would much rather see whatever that inciting incident is that makes her go over to the shadow, you know, because to me, that's a much more interesting story than just, oh, she's evil. Who cares? You know?
Yep. I know when Moraine mentioned the guy she saw, there is a good theory that that could have been Fane.
Potentially.
Yeah. But, you know,
I kind of got the impression that the guy in North Harbor has been there longer than Fane. At least that's just the feeling I got from that scene, the way I read it, is that, you know, Fane and them have only been in town for a short while. And I got the impression that this guy she's been seeing at North Harbor, she's been seeing him for a while.
It could
Not
easily
just-
be Ishamael.
well, you know, the other Twitter joke is that of course he's popular. He's the only guy that has found North Harbor.
Right.
Somebody had to go there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the way I see it, like the guy in North Harbor is plot thread to be developed later if
Yep.
necessary.
Right.
Yep.
You know, they may not have even had an idea for who that is in mind when they wrote that line, but they're like, we can pick this up again if we need to for any reason.
We have our next topic is reading the pattern. Shaughnessy, you're up.
So, okay, predictions for the next episode and beyond. Well, obviously, we're going into the waves. I have a feeling based on the way that they spoke about the ways that if they are combining it with the portal stones, we might get to see some flickery kind of stuff, which would be cool. And obviously we're going to Faldara, and obviously we're going to the Eye of the World. Obviously we're going into the Blight, you know, like we're going to see a lot of those locations from the books. And to me, it's just like, okay, cool. But what's going to happen there? I'm much more interested in like how it's all going to play out. And I don't really have any quote unquote theories about what's going to happen because I'm just letting the show do its thing. And so far I've liked what they've done. They've zigged when I thought they were going to zag. And I like that. I like that I'm not just sitting here predicting everything in a show based on a book series that I already read. Like in theory, I should be able to see everything coming. And I have been able to see a lot of things coming. Like Stepan dying was not a mystery to me. I was like, okay, well, obviously he's going to die, but I want to see how it plays out. You know, and I liked the performance. I liked, you know, the relationship between Lan and Stepan. I liked the way they handled all of that. And I understood that they needed to do that because warder bonds is a huge thing in the story. And we needed to see exactly what happens. And, you know, that's why you hire the caliber of actors that they hired, because we needed to care about Stepan. And I did, you know, a lot of the book readers that I've seen react to it is like, why are we spending time with Stepan? Like, he's not even in the books. Like, to me, like that is completely the wrong attitude to have, because it's like, when Karene died, I was like, man, I wish we had more time with her because she was awesome, you know? And when Stepan died, I was like, man, I wish we had more time with him because he was awesome. Dana too, in the third episode. It's like, all of these new characters were unexpected. And, you know, I was delighted by that.
Stepan was my choice for Tavern an episode or two ago. He was one of my favorite parts about the entire episode.
He was
You know,
great.
and that was stuff that was not in the book. So it's not like I'm opposed to all changes and new stuff. It's just,
But I'll still pick on you for that.
yeah, it's the stuff that I don't think is needed, or at least not needed yet. I mean,
Well,
this
and that's the
season
thing.
one-
We don't know. We don't know how
this
it's going to
season
play out.
one, and they're introducing stuff to us that Robert Jordan purposely didn't introduce us to until book 2 or book 3, because
Well, Robert
they
Jordan
weren't.
may not have even come up with the ideas until book 2 or book 3.
Or he might
Yeah.
not have thought they were necessary until book 2 or book 3. Like
Well, book
the
one is
Warder
just-
Bond,
yeah.
Warder Bond and the repercussions of it. That, I mean, as much as I enjoyed the Step and storyline, I don't know if it was needed season 1. That could have been a season 2 story.
So
But
this might
season-
be a hot take for Wheel of Time, but honestly, I don't think Robert Jordan. I think he was winging it for probably the first 4 or 5 books.
Oh, absolutely. And for one thing, like the Eye of the World, having to marinate in Rand al'Thor's point of view for most of that book was painful for me because he is so clueless. And like, you know, like for me, like the Wheel of Time was never about Rand or Matt or Perrin. Like those 3 book characters, I was like, meh, get them out, hate them, you know. But like in the show, I actually really like all 3 of them, you know, which for me is very painful because I hate the book characters, you know.
Right.
So like the fact that I can't also hate the show characters is like, well, it's devastating. But I like Rand, Matt, and Perrin in the show way more than I ever did in the books. And it's highly ironic that most people think that they're being given kind of like short shrift, you know, in the show, because to me, it's like, they're so much more engaging and, you know, resonant to me because it's like, they seem much more believable and
Matt
not just like,
especially.
well, yeah, Matt is amazing. And I'm really enjoying Perrin and Rand too. Like, I think that they're already showing growth, you know, like we're already seeing them start to like come into their own a little bit. Like Rand apologized to Moraine, you know, like that was huge, you know, because he realized, oh, wait, maybe she's not just the bad guy. And maybe like there's more nuance here. Like, you know, Rand is like, he's starting to show that he's got more going on than just, you know, I'm mad, you know.
Right. Rand was clueless in the book about a lot of stuff.
And
I
that's the
mean-
reason people think Lan is a stone-faced, emotionless, you know, like granite log. or
Robot.
whatever. Yeah,
And
it's
that's
like
why
because
everybody-
Rand didn't pick up on anything.
And that's why everybody thinks nobody ever came to the 2 rivers.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Rand. You lived an hour or 2 walk outside the 2 rivers. You're not in the village every day seeing the people who come and go, the travelers who come and go.
Yeah.
You don't know everything that goes on in the 2 rivers. You're a dumbass, dude.
He's really not smart. Well, at
Well,
least in the books.
So,
But in the show, he's showing a lot more,
you know,
agency.
so book Rand, a lot of people miss this one tiny detail, is where he's, I want to say he's either in Carry On or Tyr, but there's a guy from Shara who had brought a silkworm to him, and it's like, this is how you make silk, and Rand's like, you're a dumbass, silk makes on trees, and kick the guy out of there.
Yep.
That was like our one possible introduction to the Mandarin and Sharon, but they, he swept it under the rug. Like he's, a man child. He's a baby with
Yeah.
intelligence. It's kind of like,
Yeah, Rand doesn't know enough to know how much he doesn't know.
exactly.
Yeah,
And-
but the show Rand, like obviously he's much more mature. He's much more perceptive. He's not as just kind of burp. I'm a young man. He's just in the book. He's just almost comedically clueless and just like
In
and
the,
it's off-putting. Like to me, it was
yeah.
completely off-putting because I was
It-
already a grown woman when I was reading these books, and it was like
With
painful.
Matt, they had to do one change to improve Matt's character for the season, and that's what they did to his parents.
Yeah, I have no problem with killing Senbui, making Abel Cawthon, a ne'er-do-well. It's like do
Right.
whatever with them. They
Wait,
don't
You know, Matt's my favorite character in all of fiction, whether film, TV, whatever, books. But the first book, even the second book, Matt's an asshole.
He's a non-entity.
But
yeah.
when he is there, he's an asshole.
Oh yeah, I never liked Matt in the book
You know,
at all.
and yeah, I know it's the dagger, and I know we don't really get to see Matt for who he is until the Dragon Reborn, until he's healed at the tower.
Yep.
But then we get to see Matt's core identity of actually being a caring, responsible, kind individual, which is really what Matt is.
Yes,
But
he's
by
also
making his
clueless.
parents, shit, and right off the bat in the first book, in the first episode, and he has to take care of his young sisters, who are actually a lot younger in the show than they are in the books. That brings all that to the foreground. Matt's responsibility, his caringness, his kindness, and then they reiterate it when he meets Helga, also known as Elsie, and gave him Birgitta, and that's why it's so shocking when he yells at that little kid, on their way to Tar Valon last week. And then when he stopped, when he saw it was a kid, he stopped. Even as gone as he was to the dagger, he managed to stop himself from actually swearing at the kid.
Yeah, this version of Matt to me is loads better than Book Matt,
So-
because Book Matt was just kind of derping through life, especially in those early books.
I would say that they did kind of foreshadow his he's not a hero, but he does heroic stuff all the time.
Yeah.
They did that in the first episode. For my prediction for the next episode, pretty much I don't really have much to really go on aside from the going through the ways, Mashitar, possibly hunting them through the ways. I assume we'll probably get to Shinar within like 25 to 30 minutes into the first or this last episode.
I don't even think that long.
Like, I'm guessing like 20-25 minutes tops before they start getting to Shinar. I want to say it's either some of the promo material we got or the trailer we saw. Rand with a bow and he's looking like very pissed off, possibly crying a little bit. And it looked like he was in Shinar on a wall or something. So I'm assuming something bad might have happened to somebody injury-wise.
I haven't.
Or maybe it could be, he found out he is the dragon. Don't really know.
I think that's after Egwene and him have a little talk in the courtyard where or the yard where he's practicing his archery.
Yep.
Where we saw the shots with all the equipment there.
But my other prediction for the episode is I do think Fane's gonna be involved. We know he's on the IMDb list for this episode, and I think he's gonna be involved with stealing that dagger in the tower. And if Matt hadn't dropped from the show, I think we would have had some interaction there as well.
Well, and we don't know if Barney did some like minor pickup stuff after the break. I mean, and he may well have done that. Like, we don't know. I still think we could possibly see Matt.
I hope so.
Episode. And
I really hope so.
Because we do, I feel like, need some kind of additional kind of story there.
Right.
Like I almost hope he gets kidnapped by Fane and brought through the ways to Shinar, but I have no idea.
And whatever Fane gets to work with him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that might be our reveal of Leandrin. I don't know. I don't know. Like, it could easily be something along those lines, or Ishamael could let Fane into the ways, or somebody else. It's like, there's so many different ways to use the ways.
If Ishamael is going to let him into the ways, why doesn't he just travel him to wherever he's going?
Don't care. It doesn't matter.
I mean,
it doesn't matter. Like,
so
they just need to get where they are.
What's your prediction, Glenn?
Yeah, what's your prediction?
It's kind of hard to not say anything that I saw in leaked photos. So I'm going to have to try to avoid all that. I agree they're going to be in the ways. I think they'll be out of the ways within 10-15 minutes of the episode starting at the longest. I don't see them being in the ways that long.
Yeah.
But one thing I will say on that is Daniel Henny had said something like they'd film for 7 days in the ways.
That's about 15 minutes, I think.
Yeah, that could be about 15 minutes.
I just know 7 days sounds like a lot of time on set.
Not really.
Yeah.
Nope.
Not really.
Because like they said, they were all sick of it by the time they were done with that. So I assumed it was going to be around 2025. That's kind of how I got that number.
I think they'll get to Faldara. I think if that shot of Rand with the bow drawn and the close-up shot of his face, and you see his eyes full of tears, and he looks angry as hell, That's, I believe, right after him and Egwene have another heart-to-heart conversation. And she tells him, I'm going to become an Aes Sedai. We can't be together. We're not going to get married. I'm not going to try to, continue this. So, I love you, but bye. And Rand's going to be brokenhearted and go
I
cry.
don't think it's going to be about that, because that's a little like, that's just revisiting territory we've already covered. It's like Rand knows that Egwene is going to become an Aes Sedai. Like, there is no question in his mind that Egwene is going to become an Aes Sedai. It's like, as soon as that option became available to her, Egwene was like, yes, sign me up. Like, she's already like picked out her Aja. Like, Egwene is.
There's something that they argue about.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I don't.
Like, it could
I
be,
might be wrong. I might be wrong, and I'm often wrong. I'm the guy who's not afraid to admit. We've got a whole segment on the show for when I'm wrong or anybody else is wrong called "I Have Toe." When I'm wrong, I'll bring it up on the show.
Rename that "Ow My Toe."
out my toe.
Only not when I'm wrong on predictions, but when I'm wrong on, like when I state a fact, like I believe something is a fact and it turns out I was wrong on that fact, then I'll do the I've got toe. I have toe.
I still think TikTok toe is something that needs to happen.
Oh, I'll bring that up at the next threefold talk. One of the IO there might do
I
that.
have mentioned it in chat before. It's like, come on, this is so obvious. This needs to be a thing. Yeah.
But they'll be at Caldara. Rand will meet Min. Min will be like, "Oh, you're all part of it. There's sparks and stuff flying."
Yeah, I don't
She
know how they're
doesn't-
going to introduce men. Like,
She
we
won't
might
have.
not-
She won't have the other two people that are part of it that make it sparks even more. The sparks actually start beating the shadow that's swallowing the sparks because, well, she's not meeting them at the right place and time for that to have happened.
Don't care.
Because now Rand's not going to know that Tom's a part of it, that Tom's important, that he needs to keep
He'll
Tom
just have
around.
to find out the old-fashioned way. It's like Min is foreshadowing girl. That's the only purpose she serves in the book, and to be like, the lamp for Rand. It's just like, I hope she's more. I hope she's more in the show than she was in the books, just like Rand and Matt and Perrin are. Because like in the books, to me, Min was like, you can go. It's like after that first book, I was like, I thought I was gonna love Min because she was kind of iconoclastic and she was kind of doing her own thing and wasn't like marching to the beat of anyone else's drum. And I thought, okay, I'm interested in this character. But by the time she got to the White Tower and was Elmendretta, I was like, go away, don't need you. Yeah.
I'm not going to respond. I'm not going to get into a Min argument with you. We've been here before. I know I'm right. I know you're wrong. That's just what it is. We'll leave it there. I might rant about Min some other day on the show or just write a long tweet about it. Tweet thread.
Maybe in the show, Min will give Nynaeve her money for best shanker, the knife. Because Nynaeve like to shank all those
Right.
Trollocs and guys.
Oh yeah, she's handy
Like,
with the
What,
dagger.
16 stabs or something? So maybe Min will give her money's worth.
Not sure how long they're
Shank Hall of Fame.
Not sure how long they'll stay at Faldara before heading into the Waste.
You mean into the
Waste.
Blight?
No, Blight.
Blight.
Same difference.
Is it
I'm
though?
joking.
I'm
joking.
assuming it's gonna be like end of the episode for that.
Yeah.
Probably.
There's going to be some button on the end of that episode that's going to have us all, in a tizzy at the end of it going, well, what does this mean?
I'm really looking forward to seeing what the Blight looks like.
I'm sure
really have been.
Maybe we'll finally
Oh.
see Steve.
Yeah.
For all we know, he's mashing shin.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you he's definitely not a
Ashen
Shamael.
Shinshara?
He's definitely not a Shamael because I've seen a Shamael. So I can't really. Couple of the things that I would have predicted, actually, I saw in that damn thing, so I don't want to say it.
Well, it's not hard to predict the broad strokes of what we're going to see.
True.
We know the books.
I
We know
Don't know what's going to happen with Matt. And I think ripple effects are going to continue, and it's going to
And that's a
cause
good
them,
thing.
maybe not. You know, I mean,
Well,
I'm still
it
not happy
remains
about the Eye of the
distant.
World being the Dark One's prison.
Who cares? Honestly, like, why does it matter? Because like the Eye of the World, after it's used in the first book, ceases to ever be a factor in anything ever again. So why not make that a much more impactful location? Like,
because it served its purpose, and it had one purpose, and that was to store a bunch of sardine and to hide the dragon banner and the horn of the leaf.
in the books, but in this new story, why not have an early look at Shia Ghul? You know, why not have a location that you can use again, a set you can use again?
Unless they
Oh.
say the Eye of the World's at Shia Ghul,
So here's something
I'm not
is,
happy with this.
you know, so here's something is that, you know, we're getting misinformation in the show. It's a running theme of the TV show
Exactly.
is misinformation. Kind of very, you know, not political, but makes it very similar to the COVID misinformation that's been going around.
And disinformation as well.
And we know in the books that Ishamael has been yo-yoing out of the prison for years, manipulating various prophecies. If we go like Brandon Sanderson's take of this is another turning of the wheel, and you get another chance to do better each turning, that goes for Dark Friends as well as People of the Light. So he could be perfecting his misinformation campaign. He's already apparently twisted the prophecies in other ways already. So who's to say he didn't, you know, mess with the Eye of the World saying it's the Dark One's prison when it's actually not the Dark One's prison.
Well, exactly. And, you know, a lot of people are reacting to things that the characters are saying as though this is proclaiming canon irrefutably and for all time, when it's just, no, this is what this character thinks. This is what this character believes.
True.
or wants you to believe. Is
And we got
the
that
way
with
things are.
Moraine and Suan. You know,
Yeah.
Suan was like, no, the theory said, or the prophecy says this. Moraine's like, no, this one says this, this, and this. Which one's true?
Yeah.
And like maybe Suan's right, and Moraine's just been, you know, she's been on Facebook too much.
Well, I think Moraine is also just like, I have been living with this for 20 years and I have to play every angle because the stakes are too high and I cannot make a mistake. And that is another thing. It's like, to me, we're getting a little bit into the weeds as far as like the way the ways work and everything. Because like, for me, this episode lives and dies with Siwan and Moraine saying goodbye for possibly the last time and knowing that, and like all of their interactions in the hut and in the hall of the tower, they both know, like, and it's so matter of fact the way they talk about it, like, oh, by the way, you know, we love each other, but we're never going to see each other again, and we just have to make peace with that. And you have to exile me, and I'm going to go with the Dragon Reborn to fight the Dark One, and I'm probably not coming back. That is in Moraine's mind. Like, there is no like reasonable expectation of survival in that scenario for any of those people, including the Dragon Reborn.
Right.
You know? So,
you know,
yeah.
I was going to mention that, you know, there's always this possibility the reason they foreshadowed the Warder Bond is, for all you know, they're going to do something with Moraine at the end of this at the end of episode 8.
I would be very surprised if they did that.
Well, as we know in the books, you know, she wasn't dead. But
Yeah,
if they speed it up in some manner, we think she is.
I don't know why they would do that. I mean, if they do it, I'll see how it plays out. But I don't know why they would necessarily do that unless Rosamund Pike just didn't want to do more than one season.
Well, we know she's on set for season 2.
Yeah.
But she's also an executive producer.
But also, like, she's talked about, you know, being in costume on set. So we know, spoiler, I guess, she's in season 2 but it could be flashbacks, it could be whatever. But I seriously doubt that we need Moiraine still, because the other characters just aren't, they haven't come into their own enough to take the lead and be, you know, the kind of backbone of the series yet. And we still need them to come into their own a little bit more. And that's why we need Moiraine, so she can be kind of that,
Right.
you know, figure to kind of hold up the story for a little while longer.
I don't really have any other predictions.
I still have no idea how they're gonna, what Perrin's gonna do, if wolves are gonna be involved, if they're gonna develop his golden eyes anymore, because like his story is almost like done at this point, kind of.
Yeah, it's like he can be a slow burn. Like I'm
Yep.
hoping that they just try to develop his personality and character more, and like kind of ease off the, you know, the kind of lore aspect of the wolves and stuff, because it's like, well, for me, it's not that interesting, but I'd be much more interested in just who the person is and how he is dealing with everything.
I
Because
do
that's
hope
something we need to get to.
I do hope that he forges his axe while in Shinar.
Well, does that happen? I don't know when that happens, because
He was given the axe.
I
Yeah.
skim Perrin chapters, you know.
Like I said, I just kind of hope he forges his to kind of actually show he's the blacksmith. I know it was in book 3 he did it while in Tyr.
I
Could have
don't
been book
remember.
4.
I mean, it's highly likely that I just saw it was a Perrin chapter and skipped it. I mean, because I'm like, yeah. Yeah.
Glenn, was there any other topics you want to talk about?
Let me see with the rest of my list here.
What else can we fight about?
That's what I'm looking. Talked about Matt. The oath rod. They didn't need to use the oath rod.
Sure they
She
did.
already swore to speak no word that is not true.
That
So
wasn't the point.
if she says, I swear not to come back to the tower
That
until
wasn't
blah blah
the
blah.
point. The point of the oath rod was so that the audience could see what the oath rod is, could see what the oath rod does, could see it used, and could have an understanding of it. That was the
So,
point of all of
Didn't
that.
need
There's
that
a
now.
there's another point.
Use
Yes.
it in a
this.
point where it makes sense, like season 2, when the girls are actually training at the tower, maybe show an accepted being raised to the shawl and
So-
But that
swear
doesn't
the
have
oath
the emotional
properly.
resonance.
Instead,
the
now we're taking away the emotional resonance and power of and danger
No.
of the illegality of a
No.
4th oath
No,
Glenn,
that comes up later.
no.
what I
uh,
could say to this is, on the politics side of the tower, we know they want to kind of rush towards the collapse of the tower. By having her force Moiraine to do a 4th oath, they're gonna definitely start going down the Siuan is abusing her power type reason.
I
for
don't
getting
even
her
think it's that. I think you're overthinking it and you're getting too in the weeds about the lore. The point of that scene was so that Moiraine and Siuan could say goodbye and
Yeah.
have it mean something. And
Didn't
that
need
was
the rod
that
for
scene gutted me. Yes, they did, because everything about that scene needed to have stakes, you know, and like with the oath rod in play, it's like, this isn't just a matter of, well, I mean, she could just come back whenever she wants. It's like, nope, she literally physically cannot come back to the tower until Siuan Sanche says she can. And, you know, and we need Moiraine to just go away, you know,
And just
because the
saying
tower,
that, just her saying, I will not, without the oath rod there, saying exactly what Moiraine
but
said,
you're
would have
looking at
done
it from a
exactly
meta
the same
standpoint
thing.
of having read the books. This is not for us. This is for the new viewers who haven't read the books, who are like, oath rod, what's that? It's a throwaway line otherwise. It's like they needed the new viewers to understand what the oath rod even is. And
We
so
never even saw the oath rod until what, book 6, book 7?
they're developing the whole series. This isn't Eye of the World.
We
This is Wheel
we
of
didn't
Time.
need to see it. That's
You
like a
don't
year
know
out.
that. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
we needed to see that the oath was something that they literally could not do.
Yeah, we need,
Um,
just like the water bond, we needed to see what it means, not just like, oh, we've heard about the water bond. Okay, is that ever going to come up again? Because if we address it in season 2 and it's like, oh, I think they mentioned it in the first season. Now, if it ever comes up again, people know what it is, they know what it does, and they know it's a big deal. And
So,
that's
as
all
far as
they need.
as far as the viewers aware, from episodes 1 through 5 is she says, I cannot tell a lie. And then she says, like, I literally cannot tell a lie, but you don't really know the why until this oath rod comes and apparently you see the powers involved. They still haven't shown what happens if they do try to do a lie.
Well, I mean, they can't.
Well,
You know,
there's
yeah,
a
it
test more England and
prevents-
New
yeah.
Spring, but
well, I mean, and they might do something like that, but you
Yeah.
know, Glenn, you're speaking from the perspective of already knowing how everything is going to play out, but we don't know how it's going to play out. You know, there could very well be a very good reason why the oath rod needed to be introduced now. It may tie into something that we see in another episode this season or early next season, but like they needed to show it and not just mention it, you know.
I
And
mean, for all we know, episode 7 we'll see Black Aja.
yeah, or we could see, all kinds of things. But also, I think that they wanted to get a lot of their world building for the Aes Sedai done in one go, so that we're not just like dribbling that out over the course of many other seasons, when we also need to introduce the Shan Chan and the Aiel and the Sea Folk and, you know, Tyr and Ilion and Terabon and all these other places. It's like those can then be their own thing. And we don't have to whip back to the White Tower and be like, oh, by the way, here's the oath rod. You know, it's like we can
So,
kind of like
We
skip
have
that.
we do have like a minute left. Do we want to wrap this up, Glenn?
Yeah. Thank you for joining us, Siansonea. I had a lot of fun. I hope you did too.
I
It's
did.
always fun arguing with you because we stay friendly about it, and
Oh,
you
yeah, it's always
smile
fun to
even
argue.
after. I hope everybody had a good time watching. Thanks for joining us. Please leave us a like and subscribe, and some comments. Plenty of comments, please. I need people to comment so I
Yes,
can
mean
respond.
comment.
Yes, mean comments for me. Your Siansonea, no mean comments from Max. He doesn't take it well.
Yeah, it's like
Don't
I
pick
will
on
only
Max.
respond to mean comments. So
And thanks for joining us. Everybody have a great night, and don't forget to be awesome.